Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Recently I had a procedure done called a celiac plexus block, and I thought I would share what that is and what my experience was with the procedure. First off, let's talk basics. What is a celiac plexus block? A celiac plexus block is a type of nerve block used to help those with severe abdominal pain, pancreatic cancer, tumors, things like that. In my case, it was used as a diagnostic tool for median arcuate ligament syndrome. Having this procedure done along with my other tests was able to help my surgeon to better understand how I could react after surgery and if I was just overall a good candidate for the MCAS release surgery. Sometimes in MCAS patients, the nerves can also be compressed, causing pain. Having this procedure done can give a good idea as to if there is nerve involvement, if the nerve has become compressed, or if there's nerve damage. This is all a pretty confusing thing, and I am definitely still learning about this condition along with my other compression syndromes. But from my knowledge, there are 3 different presentations of MCAS. You can have neurogenic MCAS, which is where the nerve is compressed or damaged, but there's no visible compression on imaging. You can have nerve and vessel compression, or you can have just the vessel being compressed. This is all a pretty confusing condition to fully understand, which is why I firmly believe that more research and more awareness should come to these conditions so that we can better understand and fully understand these conditions in order for doctors to properly treat and diagnose these conditions. So how was the celiac plexus block and what should you expect? So first thing I would like to point out is that this is my own unique and personal experience, and my experience may look different from others. Okay, so if you ever had surgery before, pre-op is pretty much the same. I checked in at the front desk, filled out some paperwork, and then waited to be called back to a room. Once I got back to my room, I met with my amazing nurse, and she took my blood pressure, checked my pulse, took my temperature, took my weight, pretty basic standard stuff for a medical procedure. I then changed to my gown and an IV was placed. The procedure itself can make you feel sort of dizzy and lightheaded, and I believe my doctor said that it can also lower your blood pressure. I have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and so we anticipated that my POTS symptoms could potentially be worse after the procedure. I have a central line, but that day it was giving me issues and my team didn't feel comfortable using it, so we crossed our fingers and hoped we could get an IV placed, and thankfully we were able to place one. I'm going to try and insert a picture of me in the pre-op room and in my hospital gown and whatnot. But at this point I wasn't feeling very nervous about the procedure. I was, just scrolling through TikTok, Snapchatting friends, texting. I FaceTimed a close friend of mine, and then the doctor came in to talk about the procedure. He described what the procedure was, what would happen, and some of the risks associated with the procedure. So once I met with my doctors and nurses on my care team, I headed back to the operating room. I will say that that initial walk from the pre-op room to the operating room is almost always cold, and the operating room itself is freezing cold. My temperature goes kind of crazy because of my POTS, and so I'm either freezing cold or I am extremely hot. When I got into the operating room, I was like visibly shaking because I was so cold, like my teeth started chattering. But my nurses were amazing, and they swooped in with a warm blanket and helped me to get warmer and to feel more comfortable being in the operating room before we started. If you have any questions or concerns, always make sure to talk with your care team, talk with your nurses, your doctors, anyone who's helping you through the process. They're there to help you and want to help you. So once I got to the operating room, it looked like pretty much any other operating room that I had been in. There was an x-ray machine in there and some screens and a table in the middle of the room. Personally, I wasn't sedated for the procedure. I was awake the entire time. So when I got into the room, they had me lay down flat on my stomach on the table, and from there they placed a towel on my lower back, and then after that they placed a blue looking sheet with a circle cut out of the middle and placed it on my back. And with that, the doctors came into the room and did a timeout, which is essentially where they make sure that you are the right person and that you are having the right procedure done. And with that, the procedure began. It actually wasn't that bad. I was expecting it to be a lot worse and a lot more scary, but it was actually not that bad of a procedure. So they numbed my back up before they did anything, and the nurses in the room made sure to tell me what they were doing before they actually did it. That helped a lot of my pre-procedure anxiety because I've had bad experiences in operating rooms before, so that definitely helped my anxiety, and it definitely helped me to feel a bit more in control of the situation that I was in. So before getting the actual block/injection, I was numbed. Like I said before, I was numbed for the procedure. And getting those numbing shots actually hurt the most out of the entire procedure. It felt kind of like how an IV feels when it goes into your arm, and then when they push the numbing agent, it does kind of burn and feels a bit weird. But after that, I didn't have much pain associated with the procedure. Once I was all numbed up, they gave me the block. The block itself didn't really feel like much of anything when it was being injected. The best way that I can describe it is that it just felt weird, and I could feel it sort of like moving through my veins. Overall, it just felt weird though, and that's the best way that I can describe it. And with that, they finished the procedure, and I was able to move myself from the operating room table to the transfer bed so that they could take me back to my recovery room. But once I got back to my recovery room and the anxiety of actually having a procedure done was gone, I experienced a range of differing emotions. Like, my pain was significantly less than what I came in with. In fact, it was gone. Like, I could breathe better. I could lay down flat without feeling like something was like crushing me. It was such a good feeling not being in pain and not experiencing that awful MCAS pain. Laying down flat and breathing without pain doesn't sound like a big deal, but I couldn't do that before without having excruciating pain. And pain just isn't fun in general to live with, and so it was a really nice feeling to not have that anymore. I was laughing, I had the biggest smile on my face, and I think at one point I even started crying. But at the end of the entire procedure, the only thing that was on my back were 2 tiny little circle band-aids. Besides the good feelings of no pain, which is such a blessing, there was some discomfort from where they inserted the needle. Nothing too bad, it was just a bit sore. My nurse did give me some ice after the procedure to help with the soreness, which did help. It was very nice. After that, we checked vitals again. My IV was removed. I was allowed to get dressed again, and I was discharged. My office is about 2-3 hours away from where I actually live. So having that ice on the way home was definitely a good thing, and I'm glad my nurse got me that ice for the way home, because that long of a car ride definitely hurt and aggravated the pain that was in my back from the procedure. Some advice that I would give to an individual about to have the block done would be, 1, to live in the moment. Depending on the type of meds received, the block typically lasts anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. Mine lasted about 4. We think that's because of my EDS and how my body metabolizes medications because of that. But typically these blocks can last anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, or they could potentially last even longer. It all depends on how your body reacts and the type of meds given to you during the procedure. But I would 100% say live in the moment and enjoy your time where, fingers crossed, your pain is alleviated, because I sure as heck know that I loved every second of not being in pain, because being in pain sucks and it's not fun. Even if it was for a relatively short amount of time, I enjoyed every second of it. And number 2, expect your symptoms to flare up once the block wears off. Okay, so before the block, my pain averaged at about a 7 and was completely gone once I had the block done, which was really nice. But once the block wore off, my pain did come back, and it came back just as bad as before the block. I expected this to happen, but I also have a tendency to minimize my pain. And so, you know, having that comparison of what my pain was like before the block and after the block made me realize, you know, just how bad mouth pain actually is and how much pain my mouth was actually causing me to have. So, you know, after the procedure, once it wore off, all of my symptoms came back, and it was definitely frustrating being in that level of pain, being nauseous, being extremely bloated, not being able to breathe very well, my POTS flaring, just everything kind of going crazy. So something that I would recommend is having, you know, heating pad, nausea meds, ginger chews, just basically get your kit ready of your flare survival kit. Be prepared for symptoms to flare up after having your block done. You know, another thing that I wish I would have done for once the block wore off was to have my medical cart right next to my bed, so then if I needed anything, it was right there and I didn't have to walk very far to go and get supplies or medications or, you know, flare day tips and tricks and things like that. You know, my flare day kit and whatnot. So having those things will definitely be beneficial to you after your block wears off. And yeah, that was my experience going through a celiac plexus block. If you are about to have this procedure done, you've got this. It was a relatively simple procedure. You've got this. I believe in you. You can do this. I am wishing you the best of luck as you go and get this done. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye!